Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So lately I've been so invested in Ibrahim Traore and the revolutionary change he's leading, not just for his country but potentially for the entire African continent. Honestly, what has caught me by surprise is seeing white folks jumping on this movement, and it actually seems genuine. It's so wild to see these so-called leaders, I'm talking about the selfish ones, they are causing people to unite without even realizing it. People are not having it anymore, and I'm so glad to see that a lot of people are on board with this energy. One feeling I can't shake off though, once Africa is truly free, every black person across the globe will finally start getting the respect they deserve. That's the feeling I cannot shake off. And to that someone who still believes that Africa is poor, let me tell you this. A country as small as Burkina Faso has managed to shake France to its core just by standing up and saying no. Now France is acting like an obsessed ex, and it's honestly embarrassing to watch. Please do me a favor of sharing this video in your social media platforms. I'm just so glad to see white folks jump on this to support Ibrahim Traore. Let's watch this.
I'm so happy to see Ibrahim Traore and what is happening in Burkina Faso trending among my Western comrades, because I have been telling my friends to pay attention to Traore and what the people of Burkina Faso have been able to accomplish for over a year now. And it is not just Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso that are challenging the violent neo-colonialism of the West. The leaders of Mali and Niger have also decided to rise up against Western hegemony. So in January, all three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, all exited the regional bloc known as the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS for short. And they created their own partnership known as the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES. ECOWAS was created in 1975 to promote the economic and political integration of the West African countries. And political and economic integration is just a nice way of saying that they were going to be pulled into the support of neocolonialism and the exploitative system of capitalism imposed by the colonizing countries of the West, that is the United States, France, etc. For example, Nigeria, which is one of the states composing ECOWAS, is one of the United States' most important security partners in Africa. Anyone who is a security partner of the US gets the side eye. So Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger teamed up and left ECOWAS because they decided they're tired of being controlled and exploited by Western powers. Traore was able to seize power in Burkina Faso through a military coup a couple years ago. Then, in January of 2023, Burkina Faso announced that its military agreement with France was over, and they expelled the French forces from the country, giving them a month to get out of Burkina Faso. This was a boss move, literally the expelling of colonizers. But Traore didn't stop there. He expelled the foreign gold miners so the people of Burkina Faso could keep the resources in their country. And he has been building schools, homes, factories, so that he and his people can live independent of the Western neocolonial powers. Now, the West has made several assassination attempts on Traore's life, and these assassination attempts will likely continue. But Ibrahim Traore is a young and strong leader, and he says there's no place for cowardice, that he knows the West is coming for him, and that he's waiting and ready. 3 weeks ago, the Alliance of Sahel States, that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, imposed a 0.5% import duty on goods from ECOWAS. Now, ECOWAS is holding a meeting to discuss the withdrawal of these three states from their alliance. And this is why we must keep our eyes on what is happening in Africa. A united Africa could easily free itself from the violent grip of the West, and the West knows this, which is why we're rolling out this guy to talk his stuff and to try to confuse the narrative around what is really happening. Much in the same way we use this individual to represent the state in perpetuating the US backing of the genocide in Gaza. What is actually happening with Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger and those Western African states is a revolutionary struggle for sovereignty and freedom. And as usual, the US is not on the right side of history. I mean, the hypocrisy of this man saying that Ibrahim Traore is using Burkina Faso's resources to enrich himself, coming from an American. Please. We've danced this dance before, where Western forces have done the most heinous of deeds to ensure the maintenance of Western hegemony and imperialism. But what is different now is that technology, social media, and the surveillance nature of the present moment means that we have an active window into what is happening beyond what the media and government tell us. Ironically, the very tools we are using to view what is really happening in Africa, the Middle East, and the global South were created through the exploitation of those places and those peoples. So make the choice to keep your eyes on Burkina Faso, the DRC, Gaza, and everywhere else on the planet where the West has our dirty tentacles. These are not things that are just happening to people over there. These are things that are intimately entwined with our lives here in the West. Our liberation is and has always been intimately intertwined with theirs. We are not free.
France occupied Burkina Faso for generations. They stole gold and uranium, billions of dollars of resources for pennies on the dollar, while the people of Burkina Faso suffered. But Burkina Faso's new revolutionary leader, Captain IBRAHIM Traoré, says no more. Traoré has kicked out all of the French troops from his country in Africa. He has banned exports of gold to Paris, and he has dropped French as the official language of Burkina Faso. It's a total cultural, political, and economic reset. Now, obviously, French President Emmanuel Macron is kind of upset with all of this. He has made his position known. And President Traoré beautifully responded. He said, if anyone is ungrateful, it is him, Emmanuel Macron. France exists today thanks to our ancestors. They should pray for us. And Burkina Faso is making it clear that this is not about some attack on France. This is about independence and sovereignty. Just last week, Burkina Faso's President Traoré decided to release 4 French spies who were guilty of attempting to commit a coup against the president, Captain IBRAHIM Traoré, in 2022. The message is clear. Burkina Faso is not the pawn of France or the Dutch or the United States anymore, but forgiveness is also at the heart of their revolution. Traoré says that this is not just a split, it is a revolution with global ripples. I couldn't have said it better myself.
So do you know about this? Have you heard of President IBRAHIM Traoré of Burkina Faso? All right, young man, been in power 2 years now, president of Burkina Faso. He's a military guy, captain. And I don't know if you know about this, but there's been about 18 assassination attempts on his life. And he came into power at a very strategic time in the history of Burkina Faso, a lot of difficulty, instability. And he's done quite a few amazing things in his 2 years, even though they've tried to assassinate him so many times. If you go and look what he is trying to do in terms of key reforms aimed at stabilizing his nation, he has built schools, hospitals, roads, developed agriculture, donating a lot of tractors and equipment for agricultural development so they can produce their own food. They have stopped exporting raw materials. They are trying to process gold themselves, hospitals, all those kind of things. You know, there's a lot of things, even airport, right? And so there's a lot of development that's going into Burkina Faso at this moment in time. And I'm sitting and I'm looking at this whole thing. Now, I'm not saying I agree with everything he is doing, all right? I'm also not saying that everything he's doing is bad. I think any president that is building schools, working on education, all right? Any president that is bettering the health care of the people, that's trying to help the people to become more self-sustainable, less reliant on imports, etc., increase production in the country, factories, job creation, etc. I think that is a praiseworthy president. And so the interesting thing is, when it comes to Africa, and you go and look at the history of the last 20 years of Africa, and presidents that have been removed either through a military coup and or assassinated and or removed weird circumstances or committed suicide, you know. A lot of those, or let me rephrase that, some of them were corrupt, all right? All of them were not good. But there were a number of them whose heart was really to better their country. But they have something in common, and that is that they went against the global establishment, if I can put it like that. And I'm not going to define that, go into details, all right? I think you know what I'm talking about. And so a lot of them just suddenly left this earth in sometimes a very bizarre way. So I'm looking at President IBRAHIM Traoré, and I'm not saying, again, I'm agreeing with everything he's doing, especially with some of his alliances, some of the other leaders in Africa that he's endorsing, Some of them are questionable, all right? But it is very clear that he's got a heart for his people and for his nation. And in his aim to develop his own country, there's been roughly 18 assassination attempts on his life. And if you look at the trend of African leaders disappearing when they want to build their own countries and invest in their people, isn't that a bit strange to you? Isn't that bizarre, you know? Now, I know what's going on. I'm not talking from a position of ignorance, all right? The thing is just I can't discuss a lot of these things on this platform, all right, because of the fact that the video will be removed. Free speech is not always as free as you think. You know, there's a price to pay. In any case, so I'm looking at this whole situation with interest and seeing where this is going. But I'll tell you one thing, if I look at what has happened the last 2 years with Captain Ibrahim Traore, I would say if I was him, I would sleep with one eye open. And it's very hard to know who you trust in circumstances like that. And that is true for any leader, any government official, any president. Sometimes you don't know who are friends and who are your enemies. And but let's keep our eye on this very interesting developments, and a lot is changing in Burkina Faso at this moment in time. So do you know about...
Apparently Trump works for French bankers now. He's threatening to arrest Ibrahim Traore. You all don't know who he is. He's the youngest president in the world. He's the president of Burkina Faso, and he has been wrapping up the French empire in Africa. The French are still looting Africa through the banking system, through ownership of all the natural resources in Africa, and they've been straight looting the place. And this guy's been leading the charge to not do that shit anymore. Trying to opt this guy like he was Fidel Castro. Should tell you something. Doesn't seem to be very well known in the world media, but this is one of the most significant dudes in the world right now.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So like I said earlier, I'm honestly so glad to see other races, not just my people, speaking out and standing with Africa on this. This right here is proof that people are tired of Africa get stepped on, tired of seeing a continent so rich, so full of life and potential, constantly disrespected and undermined. And honestly, you have to ask yourself, why can't Africa be left alone? Africa is not poor. Africa is rich beyond our imagination in resources, culture, spirit, everything you can think of. It's time we stop even allowing people to use the word poor when talking about Africa. Africa should be called a superpower because let's be real, look at what is happening right now. One country, just one country, Burkina Faso, has put two so-called superpowers in a full state of unease. One small but mighty nation stood up, said enough is enough, and now these so-called global giants are scrambling, throwing tantrums, and acting like obsessed exes who can't accept rejection. And all Burkina Faso had to do was say, you know, we want to be independent. We want to take care of our own people. That's it. Burkina Faso is not looking for a fight with anybody. Now just imagine if even 5 or 10 more African countries can come together with that same energy. Imagine if one more leader stood up the way Captain Ibrahim Traore has, with courage and dignity, with a heart that's truly for the people. Imagine what would happen to these so-called superpowers, in brackets, not really brackets, those small lines, the small tiny lines up there. Then they wouldn't know what to do with themselves, but because their influence, their control, their grip, it would crumble overnight. And the most powerful thing about Traore is that he's not even looking for a fight. Like I said, he's not looking to pick battles with these nations. He's not chasing after war, chaos, or drama. He simply wants independence. He wants to be left alone. He wants the right to govern his people without the strings of outside presidents pulling at him like a puppet. He's not asking for billions in aid. He's not begging for handouts. He's saying, leave us alone. You know, we are going to do this on our own. And honestly, is that too much to ask? Africa can survive without the so-called superpowers, I'm telling you. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Africa has everything it needs to thrive. The land, the minerals, the water, the sun, the people. The only thing that's been holding Africa back are the selfish leaders who sell out their own countries for personal gain. Leaders who trade their people's futures for multi-million-dollar mansions abroad, for offshore bank accounts fattened with... I don't want to say that. Leaders who would rather dine in Europe than invest in their hometowns. That's the real problem. But Captain Ibrahim Traore, he's not about that life. He's not trying to be another rich man at the expense of his people suffering. He's not hoarding money while his country struggles. He's showing true leadership that cares about the people, not the power, not the riches, not the applause. And honestly, it's refreshing, it's inspiring, and it has been long overdue. You can feel something shifting in the air. We feel it in Africa. I don't know about you guys in Europe, in Asia, in USA, South America, not just Burkina Faso, not just in Africa, but globally. People are waking up. People from all backgrounds, all walks of life are seeing the truth for what it is. They're standing up and saying, we are tired of the lies. We are tired of exploitation. We are tired of seeing Africa disrespected. I don't know about you, but I can feel it. Change is coming, real change. Let's pray. Let's put this brother in prayers. Let's support him. Let's rally behind him. And I truly believe that the day Africa will fully stand on its own, unite, powerful and proud, is the day that Black people everywhere will get the respect that they truly deserve. It's all connected, whether you believe it or not. And what is happening now, this awakening is just the beginning. So with that being said, I really want to hear what you guys think about all this. How do you feel seeing leaders like Traore rise up and say no more? Do you believe more African countries should follow or will follow? Do you believe real freedom for Africa is finally within reach? Let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be reading. I can't wait to hear what you have to say on this. And if you're feeling this message, if you believe Africa deserves better, if you believe in this movement for real independence, please share this video. Let's get this conversation going. Let's keep the momentum alive. Let's keep supporting real change. Thank you for watching. I will definitely see you in my next video. Thank you.